my heartfelt gratitude for all of you to have come for this satsang on a cold, cold winter morning. The chosen prayer today is May 22nd, 1914, from the Prayers and Meditations of the Mother. And the title that emerges from this is The Labor of Transfiguration. The prayers and meditations are a record of the mother's own experiences and realizations on the path. These prayers have been written according to Sri Aurobindo when he read them, when she showed these prayers to the Lord. He in a letter, he wrote to a disciple, these prayers have been written in an identification with the earth consciousness. It is the mother in the human nature, the lower nature, addressing the mother in the higher nature. The mother herself carrying on the sadhana of the earth consciousness for its transformation, praying to herself, her transcendental form above, from whom the forces of transformation come. This continues till the earth consciousness identifies completely with the higher consciousness. So there is the Divine Mother in the human form, carrying on the sadhana, and there is the Divine Transcendental Mother, both being one, but in different poises. And both in these poises, she is turning to the Divine Master, the Sovereign Master. And this kind of prayer of the divine to the divine, you may also find in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Now these prayers, they actually show us how to pray. They show us nowhere in the world has any mystic outlined the trials and tribulations, laid bare the path that she has undergone, laid bare the trials and tribulations that one undergoes on the path. And the mother has done it beautifully and with such sincerity and such humility. We only hear of, most of the times we only hear of the method and too many technical terms of the method and the final product. But the ups and downs, and through these prayers, Mother is also showing that the path of yoga is not a straight path. It goes up and down, and very beautifully, very sincerely, with so much of humility, she has outlined them. Coming to the prayer. In this prayer, May 22nd, 1914, titled Labor of Transfiguration, it is not enough that inwardly we realize the divine and we establish that reality within oneself. But if I have established and I have found that soul reality, I have to know him and realize him in every part of my being also, and also externally in the outward, in the outermost projections, the material substance too. And so much so that each atom is now directly under the influence of the divine. It is illumined. Each atom, till the last atom, this material substance is illumined by the divine presence. It is a very powerful prayer, and the Mother's and Sri Aurobindo's yoga, in fact, it is a kind of an outline. This prayer outlines the entire yoga of the Mother and Sri Aurobindo. Let us read this prayer. When we have discerned successively what is real from what is unreal in all the states of being and all the worlds of life, when we have arrived at the perfect and integral certitude of the soul reality, we must turn our gaze from the heights of this supreme consciousness towards the individual aggregate which serves as the immediate instrument for thy manifestation upon earth, and see in it nothing but thee, our sole real existence. Thus, each atom of this aggregate will be awakened to receive thy sublime influence. The ignorance and the darkness will disappear not only from the central consciousness of the being, but also from its most external mode of expression. It is only by the fulfillment, by the perfection of this labor of transfiguration, that there can be manifested the plenitude of thy presence, thy love, thy light, and thy love. Lord, thou makest me understand this truth ever more clearly. Lead me step by step on that path. My whole being, down to its smallest atom, aspires for the perfect knowledge of thy presence and a complete union with it. Let every obstacle disappear. Let thy divine knowledge replace in each part the darkness of the ignorance. Even as thou hast illumined the central consciousness, the will in the being, enlighten too this outermost substance, and let the whole individuality, from its first origin and essence to its last projection and most material body, be unified in a perfect realization and a complete manifestation of thy soul reality. Nothing is in the universe but thy life, thy light, thy love. Let everything become resplendent and transfigured by the knowledge of thy truth. Thy divine love floods my being. Thy supreme light is shining in every cell. All exults because it knows thee and because it is one with thee. The Mother and Sri Aurobindo are here to give a permanent remedy. Enough of those halfway paths, of attaining the nirvana or the moksha. But they are here to divinize humanity, to divinize matter for which man is the intermediary. So they have turned their consciousness towards this life, towards each and everything in this life. And they have put their consciousness here. So when we read the Mother and the Sri Aurobindo, and when we talk about them, when we listen, when we read their prayers and meditations, then that consciousness awakens. And we rapidly progress on the path of the yoga. Now, let us take this prayer bit by bit. When we have discerned successively what is real from what is unreal in all the states of being and all the worlds of life, when we have arrived at the perfect and integral certitude of the soul reality. So the first step, Mother says, is to successively discern. Discern meaning to see, recognize, differentiate, understand, and separate it from what appears to be unreal, the reality as it appears. Separate it, discern it, look at it very carefully. Is it real? Really, what we are seeing, is it that the reality? Is it that the soul reality? We can do it by moving successively, as is very nicely stated in the Kena Upanishad, neti neti. Not this, not this. We move successively. This little personality, this aggregate that I call myself, is not me. This body is not mine. This is yours. This mind is not mine. This is yours. These senses are not mine. These are yours, given by you for your work. And here there is when we are discerning successively, when we are looking at it stepwise, we are going backwards and also forward, there is a prayer of the Mother which comes to mind. You who are the life of my life, the light of my intelligence. You are my life. From you stems my intelligence. And what is this life? This is a frontal manifestation of the life, of the divine life, which is behind this life that I see here. What is this body? It is a tiny projection. It is a little projection in space and time of the cosmic body, the one body, the Virat Purusha. And the intelligence is whose? Humanity today, at this point, is pathetically stuck at a juncture where it says, I am so intelligent, I am so great. I have worked so hard to develop this intelligence. I have worked so hard to develop this idea. This is mine. Whereas you did nothing to make the intelligence grow. She, the Divine Mother, is there widening your intelligence for you. As long as you think the intelligence is yours, you are stuck with your current capacity, rather incapacity. Soumya sang very beautifully. Garv mera mastak mera, garv bhara mastak mera, Prabhu charan dhool tak chukne de. So we are so full of ourselves, full of this. This is my intelligence. And of course the ego, Mr. Ego is playing a very big role in it. But this intelligence is not ours. When you realize that the intelligence is not yours, but in fact, it is the Divine Mother's consciousness awakening in you the intelligence that you call yours. It is not yours. It is the Divine Mother. And when we say that, when we realize this, that it is the Divine Mother's consciousness awakening this intelligence in me, then something wonderful can happen. Recognizing that the intelligence is hers and consciously giving your consent, your sanction to it, the intelligence can grow many folds. It can multiply rapidly. Whereas by my own effort, it will not grow. But when we realize this, it grows. This is the extraordinary thing that happens. Intelligence was never yours. So it is not also fixed by your limitation. And so is true for your strength, for something that you call your own life force, your energy, your body, its skills that we have. Even these are not ours. These have been given to us. So the first step is to discern, as the Kena Upanishad again says, Yan mansana manute yenahur manomatang tadaiva brahman tvam viddhi nidam yadidam upasate. That which the mind cannot know, but that by which the mind is known. Know that to be the Brahman and not this that men seek hereafter. So this is the first step, to discern from the real from the unreal. And this has to be practiced. What we do, we get into arguments. And where do the arguments stem from? They stem from the reality which our senses are creating, the construct of the senses. Somebody must be imagining something and may say that, okay, I am seeing an apparition or maybe a ghost. The other person will say, oh, you are just imagining. But the person who is seeing it will say, no, it is real, I am actually seeing it. So these are, the reality is also multi-layered. There can be constructs and constructs and constructs of reality, but that is not the sole reality. The mother is here talking about the sole reality, the ultimate reality, from which every other reality seems, it's coming from there. And it seems that that small little part, that small little construct seems so real to us because we are limited by our senses. And we think that this is our sense and this is the final thing that we are seeing. What you are seeing is not true. Okay? So there are layers and layers, and it is our choice. If we want to get trapped in that, if we don't want to follow this path of the yoga, it's okay. But in this path, when we embark on this path of yoga, it becomes very pertinent, it becomes extremely important and significant that we realize the sole reality, which is above all these tiny, tiny realities that our senses are creating. Schrödinger, later on, the very famous scientist, he later on turned towards Vedanta, and he makes a very profound statement. What makes you makes the universe. And he gave his very, equation, a very lovable equation, I call it. Atman equal to Brahman. So the reverse is also true, Brahman equal to Atman. So no self stands alone. And nowhere in the world, he says, is there a framework in which you can put the consciousness in plurality. This plurality, it stems from the time-space reality or the spatio-temporal reality and in the individuals that we see. So it is actually not the real truth. It is, you can say, an obscurity. The real truth is actually the divine, the Sachidananda Brahman, that is from which everything is originating. It is that which contains everything. And who is the Divine Mother? The Divine Mother is the active force, emanating, coming out from that force which is Sachidananda. So it is the active force and which is pouring out. So it is, when we arrive, the mother is using the words, arrive at the perfect integral certitude of the soul reality. It has to be very integral, and you must be able to say it with certitude, that yes, this is it. It is one thing that I have realized, okay, I have become conscious that there is a divine reality, but for it to stay all the time, you need more of experiences, more opening, more consciously turning towards it. And then only with certitude you can say, yes, this is the soul reality and this is guiding everything in my life. It has taken control over all my life. I am nothing but this instrument. And the Kena Upanishad also, after the mind, it doesn't stop there. It says, that which the eyes see not, but that by which the eyes can see. That which the ears hear not, but that by which the ears can hear. So it is not a cut-off reality. It is not a part or a portion of the reality. It is the total reality, the soul reality. And it is very important to establish this certitude within oneself, because the power of the movement, all the movements of the nature, the power of the movement depends on the strength of the base. Mother goes on to say in the prayer, we must turn our gaze. So when we have arrived at the perfect integral certitude of the soul reality, we must turn our gaze from the heights of this supreme consciousness towards the individual aggregate, which serves as the immediate instrument for thy manifestation upon earth, and see in it nothing but thee, our sole real existence. So that is the next step. And what a practical step, so pragmatic. First, we realize the soul reality. We identify the soul reality, and then we look upon this body. Not that now that I have realized, not that it is me, it is a part of that one eye. We are all waves of that one eye, thy eye. And then we turn our gaze to the body. What is this body? This is an aggregate which has been created by you for the divine work, for the manifestation. And that is the next step. So, you are the one, you realize the soul reality, you are the one who is now also in this body, but here you are dressed, you are wearing so many clothes. There, the soul reality, I see you in full splendor, resplendent, grandiose. Here, you are clothed. And in the last prayer, the mother has said that so many clothes, you are wearing. In the last prayer, she says, and indeed, I saw thy divine love clothed in intelligence, then in strength, constituting this body in its smallest cells, and shining so brightly in it that it was nothing but a combination of millions of radiant sparks, all manifesting that they were thyself. So, once we have seen that soul reality, we have seen that splendor, we also have to, now the splendor and the radiance, it has to come out from each cell, each atom. Because the divine, when it pours itself, when it creates something, it puts its entire divinity even a smallest atom. It is not that because the atom is so small or something is so small, the divine is only pouring out a little bit. No. This is the omnipotence of the Lord, that he pours himself out. There is the atom, the cells, they are divinity condensed. But at the central part of everything, each and everything, the atom, the divine is there. But it has to manifest. The manifestation is still there, but it is not complete. It is partial. Or, there are layers and layers of ignorance over it. So all those sheaths have to go. And how that can go? Only when we realize the soul reality and we look upon the body and the work starts on the body. And when we see this, the yoga of transformation actually starts at this point. Sri Aurobindo has said that the integral yoga starts where all the other yogas end. And it is also pointless to say, we often get into this trap, all is God, all is God. It is very confusing. We don't discern at that point of time when we say all is God. It is like saying a nursery child reading ABCD and telling the mummy that, Mummy, mujhe ABCD aa gaya, ab main kuch bhi padh sakta hu. And in fact, nursery children, they write these nice letters to they don't know how to write and they don't know how to read also, but yet they write letters, and which only they can read. Nobody else can read. So it is like that. So we have to see the Lord from everywhere, from far, from near, from above, from below, inside, outside. Then only, this is the purpose of the yoga, to manifest, see everything, in everything the divine. And it is not only seeing everything in the divine, it is also working towards manifesting the transformation till the last of the material substance that is there on earth. It reminds me also of Carl Sagan's, I don't know whether you have seen that video, it's a very beautiful video, Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Dot. When you look from the top, the earth appears to be just a dot, a pale blue dot. And in that dot, you try to find out yourself, infinitesimally small we are. Yet, the ultimate reality is also within us. It is within every atom. And that has to manifest. And that is why Sri Aurobindo and the Mother are there. They are doing this work. And they are telling us how to do it. So the next line, the Mother says, thus each atom of this aggregate will be awakened to receive thy sublime influence. The ignorance and the darkness will disappear, not only from the central consciousness of the being, but also from its external mode of expression. This is not the old yoga, where you realize the self and the world doesn't matter. This is the yoga of transformation. So every aspect, every expression has to be turned into the divine. Every expression should be perfect, be it thought, be it action, be it a bodily movement. The cells must spontaneously know, instantaneously know how to repel illness. That potentiality is there. It only has to come out and manifest. So it is not only from within, but everything outside also has to change, it has to transform. Mother goes on to say, and it is not a small task, because we are this aggregate now that we are turning our gaze to. There are multiples of beings, parts, planes in this aggregate that we call ourselves. The mind, the vital, the body, the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts, everything we are made up. And all of it is not enlightened. There are so many parts yet in darkness. And bit by bit, when we turn towards the divine with full aspiration, bit by bit the light comes in. A few parts get illumined. And then the others, catching that light, the others also get illumined. And there is, when all the parts of the being harmonize towards this central idea that yes, now I am an instrument, a perfect instrument of the divine, then the pouring of the divinity inside, it will happen, and then we are ready to work as the divine wants us to work. Then is the perfect instrument ready. not before that. So it is it's a very long, arduous path, but Sri Aurobindo has also given the key. It is only, Mother says, it is only by the fulfillment, by the perfection of this labor of transfiguration that there can be manifested the plenitude of thy presence, thy light, thy love. It is a long process because we are not looking at one part, we are looking at hundreds of parts. It is a big labor. To realize the divine in the central consciousness is the easier part, relatively easier part in this yoga. Because after that the real work has to start, no? On this body, on this aggregate that we call, on the material world. So realizing the central consciousness, the divine in the central consciousness is the easier part in this yoga. And because the divine is already there, and Sri Aurobindo says, a veil behind the heart, a lid above the head. So that is the only thing that is preventing us from realizing this central consciousness, identifying with this central consciousness. So these are the parts which separate us from the central being. So what can we do about it? Love and devotion rend the veil. In the mind, silence the lid, thins and vanishes. So all we have to do is have love and devotion for the Lord and quietude of the mind, and then we become aware of the central consciousness. So that gets awakened. So that is relatively the easier part. Here, it's an arduous task when we turn our gaze towards the aggregate. People spend so many years, 30, maybe 20, 30 years amassing wealth and thinking that, okay, let me do this first, and then after I've amassed, I've made a cozy life for myself. I've also ensured a lot of wealth for my children, grandchildren. Then they start looking at this body, this aggregate, and then, but by that time, a lot of the time has been lost, She again sang, I think, Janam tero baato hi beet gayo, and she sang that, what is that you sang? Tees baras ki ab mati upaji, lobh bade nit nayo, maya jodi lakh karodi, kabahu na tript bhayo. So this is but the moment we realize the divine, it is so easy. If we do that, everything else will start working out so that we move on the path of the yoga. Because the realization itself is going to make sure the realization, once you realize the soul reality, once you realize that the divine consciousness is there always within, you just have to give your consent, you just have to give your sanction. When the baby is in the womb, the mother has said, let me talk about this first. The mother has somebody asked the mother about how do you define love and all. So she said in a very nice, very simple way, in her own way, she said, it is childishly simple. Childishly simple. If your consciousness is that of an animal, your love will be like that of an animal. If your consciousness is that of a human being, your love will be like that of a human being. If your consciousness is like that of a god, then your love will be like a god. And if your consciousness is like the divines, then your love will be like the divines. So change the consciousness, and everything that flows out of it will be an expression of the divine. And that is all that we have to do. Now, in the Vedas, it is beautifully stated about the dark mother and the bright mother. So when the baby is in the womb, and this dark mother and the bright mother, they are nurturing the divine child, the child, and the child is actually the psychic being. So they nourish it by different types of experiences, good, bad, the dark and the light, and slowly the baby grows. And there comes a time when they have nourished it sufficiently, and the baby now is ready and says, Ma, I am a conscious being. At this stage, it is also able to look around and see that all is a creation of the divine. It sees the divine in all the creation. And at this point, it has a choice. It can say, Ma, nourish me, help me to grow. So where earlier the mother had to nudge and prod you with different types of experiences, the dark and the light. Now, when you make this conscious choice, she knows you're ready and she pours out everything that is needed. The capacity, the intelligence, even the will, the skills, everything is poured out into the vessel that we are. And then, because then, now Mother knows that you are ready. You are ready to be the instrument and the work can progress through you. And this is a very crucial point where we can ourselves accelerate our own evolution. And it moves in leaps and bounds. Then there is no worry. So first realize the divine, the central reality, the soul reality, and then look at this body. But when you are looking at everything and you're seeing the divinity everywhere, there is this conscious choice that we have to make. It is not only looking at this aggregate. Yes, you are there here also. But here I can't find you. What is it that is preventing so many parts of my being in coming out to light? And Sri Aurobindo has given us the key. Open to the Mother. Open to her. He goes on saying again and again. And the moment we do that, this aggregate that we call ourselves, it is ready. She will prepare you. She will lead you. You fall 1,000 times, she will 1,001 times she will lift you up. Because this is what she wants. And Sri Aurobindo has also said in Synthesis of Yoga that every little thing, every little act, every little activity it will lead to the opening of the bud towards the divine. These are not the exact words, but that's what he means. That every small thing. So life in fullness, every bit of life. And this is so wonderful, so beautiful about the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, that at every point they have looked at life, in each and every part of life that needs to change, and how it can change. They have not negated life. They have not said that, ye duniya darshan ka mela. No. You have to get into life. All life is yoga. Every bit of life, every part, and that is why this is a labor of transfiguration. Transfiguration is not easy. It is a metamorphosis of your being, the entire being, the material substance. And the matter is the fortress of the hostile. It is very difficult to change that. And the Mother and Sri Aurobindo have taken on this adventure. And they are calling upon us to take up this adventure. And they are there. They have not left us. They are there. So this is the certitude they have left behind with us. They have given us, not left behind. They have poured into us. And then Mother goes on to say, my whole being, down to its smallest atom, aspires for the perfect knowledge of thy presence. This is the aspiration. And what an aspiration. And a complete union with it. Let thy divine knowledge replace in every part the darkness of the ignorance. He is everywhere. He knows everything. He knows everything about everything. He's omniscient, he's omnipresent, he's omnipotent. What else do we need? He is there in every atom. So, the Upanishads also say, no, what is that by knowing which we shall know everything? And they give the answer, no. That is how. Yasmin vigyate vigyati sarvam. By knowing him, one can know about everything. Then, so what we need to do, we just need to hand over everything to the divine, till the last atom in us, and ask the Divine Mother to pour her love, pour her presence into everything, and everything will become resplendent. She goes on to say, even as thou hast illumined the central consciousness, the will in the being, enlighten too this outermost substance. And she has given us the key, the entire process she has outlined for us. So, whenever there is a difficulty, when we are not able to see the divine anywhere or feel it, just go to that domain, invoke her there, and then the consciousness will change and the light will come. And let the whole individuality from its first origin, Sohamasmi, the first origin, and ascends to its last projection, the material substance, and most material body be unified in a perfect realization and a complete manifestation of thy soul reality. So, the soul, realizing the soul reality, seeing it is not enough. It has to manifest. And this is the only thing worth doing. We often resort to patchwork. We say, we are ill, we will say, God, make us better. Child is not getting admission, we'll say, God, give admission to my child. And when the child gets admission, we say, what a good God. When the child doesn't get admission, we say, oh, how cruel. So we kind of resort to patchwork. Depression ho gaya, medicine kha liya. Or we are feeling sad, okay, we go to the temple. We go to the temple, that temple jaane se hame kuch hoga. Yes, hoga, that's a primary aid, hoga. But pura nahi hoga. We do work in patchwork. But realize and then offer. Remember and offer. And she will do the work through you. It is so easy. Do we really think that she will not come? Do we really think that he is not there in everything? So, we create barriers between ourselves and her. We are the ones. ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता कि वो ना आए. If you call the mother, it is not possible. She will come. There is a very famous story I read somewhere. This man is dreaming and he is walking on the sand on the beach, and it's a journey of his life. So, and it is depicted through the footsteps on the sand. He looks back and then he sees there are certain times at certain intervals there is only one. He's walking with the Lord and he sees two pairs of footsteps. He looks back at certain times, he sees only one pair of footsteps. So he turns back to the divine and Lord and says, Lord, you left me? I'm walking alone? And the divine says, no, my child. So the man says, in difficult times you left me? He says, no, my child. In those times, I lifted you and carried you. That's how you see only my footprints. So whatever work the mother and Sri Aurobindo have done, it is touching every point in life. And the mother herself has said that we are not here to do what others are doing. We are here to do what others cannot do because they do not know how to do it. And that is why they have shown us this path. And then she goes on to say, nothing is in the universe but thy life, thy light, thy love. There is God behind everything, and this knowledge has a tremendous power. Let everything become resplendent and transfigured by the knowledge of thy truth. Thy divine love floods my being. Thy supreme light is shining in every cell. All exults because it knows thee and because it is one with thee. So it is very easy and very difficult. Very easy when we realize and we see the soul reality, not a construct of the senses or not a tiny reality, not a cut-off reality, but the one ultimate reality. And then in that reality, we look at our own body and we see the reality in us, in every part of this being. It is the same thing, same being here. Only thing our work is to consent, give our sanction, and let the pouring happen. Let the divine love pour, the mother's love pour, fill you up. The transcendental mother, she is the transcendental mother. She has all the power. And this power, it is not a power, it is her total love. When we talk of the divine mother, her power, her force, we are talking of her love. It is the Lord embracing whatever he has created, he is embracing everything and drawing it, the whole creation to itself, to himself. It is that simple. But it becomes very difficult when we get stuck into this tiny little thing we call ourselves, our personality. my name, my fame, my business card, ego. But the moment you consent to the Divine Mother, you open to her, you will find that this little fellow also starts dissolving. And the total dissolution happens when everything gets lighted up in you. And it has no role then. Ego has a role, but now you have to let go of it. You must know how to let it go. And the mother tells, it's only by the mother's love, her power, her force, her light, that the ego can be dissolved. So it is the mother. The mother is the beginning, the mother is the path, the mother is the goal, Sri Aurobindo says. It is she who is doing the yoga. In Shaivism, there is a very beautiful story of Shiva and Parvati. So they decide, what is this creation? This is a game. We say Leela, Lord playing with the Lord himself and creating so many for his own delight. And Sri Aurobindo says, this world was created out of delight, not out of nothing. It was created out of delight. And delight exists. And so there is in Shaivism this beautiful story about Shiva and Parvati, that they decide to play a game, but then they realize that they are sarvavapis, sab kuch to pata hai. Where will they hide from each other? They want to play hide and seek. So where will they hide from each other? They know everything. So it's so difficult. Then Ma Parvati says, okay, I will blindfold myself. And she becomes the nature. And she is searching for the divine. And she is working her way out. So this is the story. And a beautiful story with a lot of, you can say, delight in it. Let us read this prayer once more. When we have discerned successively what is real from what is unreal in all the states of being and all the worlds of life, when we have arrived at the perfect and integral certitude of the soul reality, we must turn our gaze from the heights of this supreme consciousness towards the individual aggregate which serves as the immediate instrument for thy manifestation upon earth, and see in it nothing but thee, our sole real existence. Thus each atom of this aggregate will be awakened to receive thy sublime influence. The ignorance and the darkness will disappear, not only from the central consciousness of the being, but also from its most external mode of expression. It is only by the fulfillment, by the perfection of this labor of transfiguration, that there can be manifested the plenitude of thy presence, thy light, and thy love. Lord, thou makest me understand this truth ever more clearly. Lead me step by step on that path. My whole being, down to its smallest atom, aspires for the perfect knowledge of thy presence and a complete union with it. Let every obstacle disappear. Let thy divine knowledge replace in every part the darkness of the ignorance. Even as thou hast illumined the central consciousness, the will in the being, enlighten too this outermost substance, and let the whole individuality from its first origin and essence to its last projection and the most material body be unified in a perfect realization and a complete manifestation of thy soul reality. Nothing is in the universe but thy life, thy light, thy love. Let everything become resplendent and transfigured by the knowledge of thy truth. Thy divine love floods my being. Thy supreme light is shining in every cell. All exults because it knows thee and because it is one with thee. Yesterday, I found something, I read something very interesting, which fell so much in place. As I was going to sleep, I read that. And it falls so much in place with this prayer. Let me share it with you. this story I read, there are 3 women who are reading the Bible and discussing the Bible. And it is the book of Malachi in the Old Testament. They are reading chapter 3, and when they come to verse 3, they come across a line which they are not able to understand. They read, "He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver." So they are very confused. The Lord sitting, refining, purifier of silver. Why silver? And why will he sit? And all these words are playing in their mind. So one of the women, she decides to go to a silversmith and see how he works. So she goes there to the silversmith, and she sees that the silversmith is actually holding a piece of silver and putting it inside the flame. And he holds the silver in the middle of the fire. And he tells her that, she says, "Why are you doing this? Why are you holding it here?" Then he says that, "I have to hold it right in the middle of the flame because the flame is hottest here. And I have to hold it there so that all the impurities are going to, fall out from this piece." And so the lady in her mind is going on, "Oh, the Lord wants us to be in the hot spot in this hot seat." So then she recollects this psalm. It is called, in Bible these prayers are called as psalm. So she again reflects on that, and she says, "Do you have to sit throughout while you are doing this?" He says, "Yes, I have to sit throughout holding this in the middle of the fire. And not only do I have to sit, but I cannot remove my glance from it, because even a slight extra moment of the heat can destroy the silver. So I have to constantly keep it here, and I have to also constantly fix my eyes. My glance is constantly there." And one last question then she asks him, "How do you know? When do you know that the silver is now purified and refined?" He says, "Oh, that's the easy part. When I see my own image in it." Isn't the Lord doing exactly the same? But see the beauty. The Lord, the divine, is not even removing his slightest glance from you. He knows. Even if you have to go through the arduous path, he is there holding you. He's not letting you go. He's holding you, and he knows exactly the time when you will be refined. Utna hi heat denge. And he will not remove his glance from you. He's throughout. Because he is that. वही सिल्वर है. So that's it.